Alright, how is everybody doing? So today I'm going to go over Game 2 of the 2021 Denver Open, which I played over the weekend, so about 4 days ago. And the second game, I played Griffin McConnell, who is Griffin McConnell, who is Sullivan's brother. I don't know how I managed to get both of them in a row, but I somehow did. And I'm just going to briefly go over the game and give my thoughts about the game. See if we can switch the board. So I'm playing white, he's playing black. I talked with him a fair amount before the game because I was supposed to play him right around 2. Was that right? Yeah. I played his brother in the morning. That game was delayed. Then I was supposed to play him right around 2. And the tournament got delayed all the way till like 7 o'clock. So we had 5 hours of downtime. And I actually finished my first game at like 12 or 12:30. So I had 7+ hours of downtime. And I talked to Griffin quite a bit. He's a really nice kid. I enjoyed talking with him. He was out to avenge his brother. So we'll see how that went. So I'm playing white. He had told me in conversation that he had plans for E4 and D4. So I was like, well, I'll just play C4 then, and maybe it won't fall into book. That was the extent of my prep for this game. So C4, E5. I'll put the engine on so you can see. I didn't know really what I expected the engine to say about this game. When I first input the moves, the engine absolutely hated my opening, and excuse me. Engine thought I got myself to 1 to 2 point disadvantage pretty soon out of the opening, and that didn't change till somewhere in the middle of the game. So C5, C4, E5, D3. I've played this tons of times in Blitz and Bullet. Haven't ever put any serious study into the English. I know this is called the English. Okay, so computer recommends knight F3. I play E4 to clamp on D5. I didn't really want him playing. I didn't want him playing D5 himself. That's why I played E4. Computer already says it does not like that, and it says bishop C5. Already black has a small edge. Now, of course, you don't want to have given away your advantage, your opening advantage as white after 2.5 moves. Not only give it away, but also give the edge to black. So by playing these 3 moves, we've essentially swapped positions according to the computer. So now black has the opening advantage that white should have. I didn't know this. I didn't know what the computer's evaluation was, obviously, till I just input the moves. So, but he didn't play that. He played D6. So when I saw him play D6, I kind of assumed that he didn't know this opening either. So I was like, okay, we're just playing chess. Nobody knows this opening. So I was happy at this point. Knight C3, and he plays F5. And according to the computer, that's somehow giving me an advantage now. And it says to play g3, and I'm assuming bishop g2, knight e2, and castle. But I didn't do that. I played knight f3. Computer says that's fine. He played knight f6. I played my bishop out, partially because this pawn here, this knight on c6 is blocking this advance. So I figured I could take that anytime I want and have my knights have a very nice square on d5. And you know, if he ever did eventually kick it, I can come back here and reroute it. So he plays bishop e7, a normal developing move. I played bishop e2. He castled kingside. I played queen b3. The computer hates this. The computer just says knight in. Let's see what it would look like. Takes, pawn takes, knight b5. Oh, I guess this pawn is just hanging in that case. Or if he just took. Okay. So d4 is also hanging. So computer says he has about a pawn advantage. It's nothing crazy still. And I didn't, at any point of this game, even though the computer is giving me -1, -2 out of this opening, I never felt worried or like he was attacking me. Maybe I should have. I don't know. So he castled. I played queen b6, and my idea was to just castle queenside and try and attack him. It's very basic. Nothing too extravagant with the idea. So I castled. No. So I didn't castle yet. I played queen b3. He played knight a5, and I thought that was weird. I didn't think that was any. Like, the knight's not ever going anywhere except for back to c6. So I thought that was kind of a waste of a move for him. So I played queen back to c2. And then I saw, oh, he just wanted to play c5 himself and clamp the center. So I have this one clamped, he has this one clamped. And now the computer says the position's equal. Right? I always forget how to remove these arrows. Go backwards over them. So he clamps, and I castle queenside. Computer doesn't like this. It doesn't say it's losing, but it doesn't like it. But I kind of liked it. This is why I liked it. I figured he could take this anytime he wants. I'd probably take back with the pawn. And with the open file, mainly you're wanting to get at this pawn. If you have a semi-open file, you're always trying to get at the pawn, if there is a pawn there. And there is a pawn there. But he doesn't have any super easy way to get at this pawn. Maybe he can try something like this at some point. Maybe get the knight in there. But this knight is blocking the pawn, and I have these two defending it, so he's not getting at that pawn anytime soon. And the attack over here on the queen side is not coming super fast. Although I know in all these positions, a6 and b5 almost always works, even if you sacrifice the pawn. And this happened in my other game versus Charles Unruh, another national master, the one person that I lost to in this tournament. That's also a fascinating game. I haven't put that into the analysis board yet, but he was attacking over here, and I wasn't really attacking. I was just kind of defending and sitting on the position. And I had a position where I could play b3 and lock it up, or I could allow this pawn to take with check, and basically he has tons of play down the a file. And I was getting worried about some sort of whether the increment was working or not on the clock. Right at that moment, we both had 10 minutes left, and when we figured out that the increment was still there and we pressed the clock again, I didn't even think about that I was supposed to consider at least consider b3, and I just I just attacked his queen. And in the back of my monkey brain, it said, oh, well, he can't take here yet because I'm attacking his queen, but he's taking with check. So he took with check, and then he moved his queen, and, from there on out, my position was just hopelessly lost. But I'm very curious to see if it was holdable had I played b3. That game will be next, so if you're enjoying these games, then stay tuned for the next one. That will be coming up probably over the weekend, maybe tomorrow. But anyway, back to the game. So computer hates my position. It says negative 1.7. But another thing is just because the computer says negative 1.7 and says black has somewhat of an advantage, if black doesn't know he has an advantage, then he's not necessarily pressing. And Griffin didn't seem to know that he had an advantage because he played pretty passively. So then he moved his knight back to c6, like I thought he would. And I took the knight. The computer says that's absolutely, the evaluation stays the same. And of course, my idea was to come here. And if he came here first, then of course I would just take it, whichever pawn he took with, I would be fine with, and then I would just put my knight there afterward. So he took back with his bishop. I put my knight on his golden square on d5. He developed his last piece, and the computer still says this is just a really good position for black. It's not winning, nobody's up material, but by the computer evaluation, black is doing very, very well. And visually speaking, I couldn't tell you why. Also, he has the two bishops, but the position is kind of locked up. Where is bishops going? And I know it's some obscure sort of moves that magically open up the board for the bishops. Probably involves stuff like that. He didn't go for any of that, though. So then I played h3. Why did I play h3? Oh, I played h3 because I figured this wasn't going to happen, and I wanted to just play. I think I just wanted to play here and try to sack the pawn. But actually, no, I don't think I did want to do that. I don't remember why I played h3. I really don't remember. Okay. Well, computer really doesn't like that move. It says now it's negative 2, 2.5. Okay, he took my knight because my knight was the one piece that was being active. I took back. I considered for a while, and then I took back this way because simply because all of the activity is happening on his king side, at least in my mind, and I wanted to. And I also didn't want these two to become more free. So if I took with this one, then there's more play here. So I took back with the c pawn. Computer recommends knight b4 here. And I thought this was fine, but maybe he's going to push here, and then if I push a3, he pushes a4. Is that what's happening? Yep. So yeah, it's still sort of negative 2. But he can, in this position, yeah, I can take that pawn, but that's of course bad. Oops. He can, he can get something here. He can probably just sack this pawn already. Maybe queen to c7 and rook over here, and he's the one that has the blistering attack. Okay. So he did not play knight b4. I expected knight e4. This is what I expected. And if he played knight e4, I would have taken, and then he'd probably take back this way to try to get at my queen, and then I would just sidestep. And it was going to be opposite colored bishop endgame, and it's probably drawish. So let's look at that line real quick. Takes. Oh, computer likes this one better. So let's take with the one that I thought he was going to take, and then sidestep like I thought, and then what do you know? It's a draw. Of course, even drawn games, you have to know what you're doing to some extent. So after I took his bishop, he backed his knight up to e7, and at this point I was thinking this is fine for me. And I saw lots of different ways to sort of get things going. Even if I play here and he pushes, then I have this. Maybe, you know, there's that rule that if there's not like a piece right here and you get a pawn here, then he can always push. Or if you get a pawn here, you can always push. So I know of that rule, and that was the same thing that was happening over here with my other game versus Charles. But I just forgot that I wanted to lock it up. Very stupid. So he played his knight back to e7, which I thought was super passive, and I didn't see how that helped him. And I don't see where his attack is here, honestly, because he can push his pawns, but my queen's defending. My king's gonna come over, and basically he has to rely on this pawn getting to here, and I can always push. The attack is coming, but it's not coming super fast. And that's the only thing that ever happens when you castle opposite sides. Is it's usually crazy tactical games, and whoever gets to the other person's king first wins. So then I played h4. I finally played a computer recommended move. And at this point, after he played knight here, I started thinking about how to attack his king, and I saw that if I played h4 and I played knight here, not only would I have a fishing hook attack like Brian Wall plays all the time, but also this bishop is going to activate itself. I saw that as soon as he played knight here. He can't stop my bishop from coming in. And I saw already that that was going to be at least somewhat dangerous for him because he does not have a light square bishop, and I do. So I played h4 for that reason. He played a6. I'm assuming to prepare this, but again, that looked super slow to me, and he doesn't have any pieces on the queen side to attack with. This knight barely can move. You know, where's his knight going to go? Bishop is stuck by these pieces. So I was happy. I was actually really happy with my position at this point. So I got out of the way just to preempt any opening of the file and attacking of my queen. And then he played b5. And then again, I just was thinking this is an amazing position for me. And it's kind of funny because the computer right now does not say this is an amazing position for me. And it feels like to me, even looking at it right now, that it is an amazing position. At least versus humans. And when I felt like my position was just fine, but not horribly losing, the computer thinks that, you know, I'm -1.5 to -2. So I don't know. Our computer is able to really read and predict humans very well. I don't know. So he played b5, and I played my rook to g1 first. I knew I could play knight here first, but I just wanted to prepare. I wanted to bring more pieces into the attack because I knew this was going to open up the file. I was going to do my very best to open up the g file, and I would prefer to have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces in the attack, and I can always bring my queen over at some point. So I played rook to g1. He played f4, and then at this point, this is why I started considering queen d1, because the second he played f4, I saw the bishop is going to come in, and it's going to be very painful. unless he sees it and figures out a way around it, like right at this moment. If he doesn't figure out a way around it right at this moment, I felt that it was going to be very painful. So after he pushed and locked the position, I played queen d1 for that same reason. Move the bishop, and then also I'll have queen moves. And he played rook c8. And this is understandable. He's trying to play c4, and which I probably would have just left and let him take back the bishop. I kind of follow the general rule that says to take is a mistake. So I don't take, because you take, you allow this pawn to advance, so his pawn has gone forward and this file is opened up for his rook or queen or whatever. So to push, and I just ignore it. He can't push here yet, although that might be an okay move to push here, because he'll either take or I'll take back, and you know, my dark squares are getting a little bit weak. But I wasn't worried about rook c8. Griffin was rated 2064. He told me that him and Sullivan are roughly the same strength though, and that he told me his rating was lower right now because he had just had brain surgery. He had just had brain surgery something like 5 months before this tournament, which is completely insane that he's still playing chess and able to play well. He won the Blitz tournament on Friday night before we had this tournament. And I played him like 5 games before this one, and he won every single game. I did blunder like 3 of them. I think 2 of them were, one was a crazy queen sack, and I don't remember the other one, but yeah, he beat me 5-0 in the Blitz. Okay, so he played his rook to c8, and then I thought this was crushing. At this point, when I was able to play knight to g5, in my mind, this game was already over. And maybe I was overestimating it, but the computer says plus 2.7. But I figured if he takes here, this is still going to happen. And these pawns are now restricted because my pawn's on g5. So the bishop is going to get here, and my queen is going to get here. And he's just going to get mated. So let's look at that line real quick. Bishop takes, pawn takes. With his best defense, this is still happening. And there's even like rook sack possibilities too. So it's trying to defend by pushing h3. So yeah, it's saying basically just double up or push this. Probably there's a bunch of ways to win. At any case, black is super uncomfortable. So in response to knight g5, he played queen b6, and he's trying to attack. He's trying to attack on the queen side, and I was completely happy when he did that because I felt like the attack was crushing. So I felt he was only helping me because my same plan was going to happen, and all that he has changed is that now his queen is not as close to defend against the attack as it was here on d8. So I just followed my plan. Then he moved his rook to b8, which I thought was also a mistake because he just spent a move moving it to c8 and then he moved back. And at this point, when he moved his rook to b8, I thought this game is over. I've won it, and that's just all there is to it. That was my thought, and we both still had plenty of time on the clock. So I kept going with my plan. He played king to h8, and I think he maybe assumed I was going to go here, and then he was going to take, try to get some weird, like, discovered attack, but I knew this wasn't any good. My attack was worth way more than winning that exchange. And so, yeah, I saw pretty quickly that I could take this pawn, and if he took it, then it was checkmate. Nothing can block. And this square is covered by my bishop. And he kind of winced a little bit when I took his pawn on h7, and I think he saw at this point, I think up until this point, I think that maybe he thought he was going to be fine. I mean, even if I had just played queen here immediately, it's probably still winning. like by a lot. Oh, it's not winning by a lot. It's just down to a good edge. Okay, so he plays king h8. I took his pawn on h7, and then I kind of figured that he had to play g6, and he did. And then I just take his rook and, you know, try to pry open these two files and enjoy the game. Like, there's nothing else for me to do as white from here. I'm in zero danger whatsoever on the, like, my king is completely bare, but there's no danger. So he took back. I played queen to g4, which I think was a mistake. I think that was getting a little too hasty. I probably should have even just pushed this pawn. And then if he pushes here, then I take it, and then very slowly do this, and then this. Because you never want them to go lock it up when you're attacking. You want open files. So queen g4 maybe was a bit hasty. Then he played the one attacking move of the game, which was c4. And again, I don't like to take. So anyone watching, if you're trying to beat me, know that I think to take is a mistake. So he took, I took back, and then he won a pawn. And I just was like, I'll play queen f3. If he takes back, he's like down the exchange. I have the open g file. This bishop is massive, and I was totally fine with that. So queen f3, and then he went back. And then from here on, the plan was just to play g4, g5, h5. Because once my pawn is here and I push this, he can't push here. That's the point. So I played g4. I guess he could have taken here, maybe. The evaluation pretty much stays the same. It does like open this up, but that's not too dangerous. So I pushed. He played his knight back to c7, c8, which doesn't do anything, so I continued my plan. And then I kept going, g5, and he went back to d8. And I didn't notice at this point that I could take his knight, but I thought this was ridiculously strong. Regardless, when I saw that I could have taken the knight, and I actually thought this move was still better, and the computer agrees. So he played king to g7, which is pretty much the only move that avoids mate. Because if he just left it somehow and I was able to play check here, and he goes here, I just come and say check. His only move is to take this pawn, and queen to h5 is mate. So he saw that was coming, he played to g7, and then I took and opened it up. And again, the same thing is still here right now. So if he does nothing, then I have this rook h7 check, which is going to lead to mate. If he doesn't, maybe he can move the rook or something and have like one escape square. So he played one more kind of trick move. And I was, of course, thinking about taking, but then I was like, oh, there's something wrong here, so what happens if I take? Well, he just takes my rook. And apparently it's still massively winning for white, but that would be completely unnecessary. So instead of taking, I just moved my other rook to c8, and you know, all these threats are still going on. His knight is on pre. My queen can get in various ways. And he resigned at this point. So, to look at the game bar, you can see it was even, up until move 8, it was pretty even till move 9. Then it hated my position for like 4 or 5 moves. Till move 15. So for 6 moves, computer said your position is the worst ever. And then I got to this position. After king b1, computer's like, alright, it's a new game. Back to even. And then he played here, and I think I had the advantage from here on out. At least psychologically. Also, he has a bad bishop due to this. If your bishop is on the same color as your pawns, especially the ones that are in the center, then you have a bad bishop. Even with my sort of crappy opening, I only had one mistake according to the computer, one inaccuracy, and 27 centipawn loss, I think, versus Sullivan. I had 18 centipawn loss, so technically speaking, I played better against Sullivan than Griffin, even though this game was more brutal. And Griffin had 5 inaccuracies, 4 mistakes, no blunders, and 61 average centipawn loss. So that's game 2. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for hanging out, and I will be back relatively soon with game 3 versus Charles Unruh, who's a super nice guy, by the way. Okay, thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time.